Guys, are you ready for the ultimate showdown this weekend at UFC 298? Join me in the action by leaving your picks for the fights in the comments below. I have teamed up with DraftKings Sportsbook, and right now, new customers get a no-sweat bet. You can get a bonus bet back in the amount of your original bet if your pick doesn't hit. Minimum deposit $5. Sign up using my promo code Sonnen. And DraftKings has something for existing customers as well. All customers get SGP insurance every day. Get a bonus bet back if one leg of your SGP bet loses. Minimum number of legs required and max bet vary. And if sports betting is not yet available in your state, do not worry. You can still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy. New customers, use my promo code Sonnen and you get a no sweat bet. So click on the link below and download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Ian Garry versus Sean Strickland. How would we get there, guys? I mean, that is a hot match. And Ian Garry seems to be very serious about it. Now, it's like anything in life. Be careful what you ask for. And I can tell you, if Garry wins, let's say Garry wins, he's got the microphone. Opposite Joe Rogan makes a call out like very few can. Gary's got a special skill, but I believe he's 15-0 right now. That'll make him 16-0. If I'm wrong, I'm still close. It's a beautiful record. He'll be a meaningful contender. And now he's made a call out of a guy that started a personal feud with him, and you don't get very many personal grudges. Not to mention, there's really nothing separated. I mean, 170 pounds and 185 pounds is the exact same thing. That's the same weight. If a guy's within 15 pounds, you weigh the same thing. So, would you have him fight? Because I will tell you, historically speaking, and if you were to get into the mind of Dana White, no. No, you wouldn't really have anything you could turn to, regardless of the personal grudge and how fun and how hot and how great that could be for an industry. You really wouldn't have an example that you can turn to where Dana would take two guys from different weights and put them together just because, even if it was personal grudge. And one way that Dana would look at it, right, because anytime you're guessing or you're predicting where does it go, you're not guessing and predicting what you hope. You're also trying to guess and predict what you think that he is going to hope. So Dana would often look at it as, look, I got two contenders right there. If I have them fight, I eliminate one. If I don't have them fight, I can have them both go in to championship matches. That's two meaningful main events. Right? So if you're telling me them fighting each other is a big fight, I don't disagree. But if I send both of them on their separate ways, is collectively those two fights not as big as the one that you're suggesting, right? I mean, this would be the math, this would be the mindset there. So, let me just give you a different scenario. If the question is, what is the road to get Garry and Strickland together? The road to get them together is that Garry doesn't win. If Garry gets beat by Neil, what do you do with him? And now that's where it starts to be very interesting, right? I mean, there's not a rule, but there does seem to be a pretty strong policy in matchmaking. A guy that won his last fight fights a guy that won his last fight. A guy that did not win his last fight fights a guy that did not win his last fight. And Garry is on such a trajectory right now for a world title fight. Not to mention, if personal beef is the only thing that you're using to try to suggest that they should find a weight class and get matched up, if that's all that you're using, well, Ian Garry and Leon have a personal story too. So, I don't think it's enough. But I don't want Garry to waste his time. I don't want him to waste his breath. He's only got two guys' names coming out of his mouth. Sean Strickland at a weight class that he's not in, and Colby. And it's an interesting spot. With a victory, I feel as though his options are more limited than a defeat would bring him. Now, isn't that ironic? Because with a victory is the only time he's going to get the microphone to make a call out of any kind. With a defeat, though I think he's more likely to get the match that he wants against Sean, he's not going to be given the opportunity to call for the match against Sean. So it's a very interesting spot. I can't think of much that I would like to see more than Gary and Sean at a press conference, at a media shoot, doing a dual interview, doing a split side-by-side screen. I can't think of too many things in a build-up that would be more entertaining and fun. But that isn't how matches get made over here. That isn't why matches get made. And if Ian Garry gets a win over Jeff Neal, that's going to be very significant and meaningful. That's going to move Ian Garry to number 6, number 5, somewhere like that in the rankings. That will give him the most beautiful record of anybody under signed contract that is not named Rakhmonov. He's within striking distance this year, right? If this calendar year of 2024, Garry is to have 3 fights. If he can win all 3 of those fights, I'm very confident in telling you one of those is a world title fight. I can't imagine he's 4 fights away. What would that mean? 18, 19-0? He's the biggest star. He's the most recognizable name. A really unique position, but that position is what excludes him from getting Sean. It's not going to be a matter. I think in his mind, he thinks, hey, if I go do a good job, for a job well done, for the pat on the back, I'm more likely to get the piece of candy I'm asking for. That would be a very natural human way of thinking. I just think that it's the wrong math. It would actually make him a very meaningful contender within his own division and no reason to send him into a different division. And so many guys, by the way, we don't ever get back. If you let him go into a different division, right? I mean, imagine that Garry goes up and he beats Sean. I mean, just imagine that. He's now beaten the top guy. He's now beaten the world champ. Why did you ever come down? You can get the same prize and do the same thing, get the same ranking at a weight class where you don't have to suffer as much. Why would you ever come back down? So it's just one of those dream matches and one of those dream moments. And it's one of those rare situations where generally success opens doors for you. In Gary's situation, it kind of limits and narrows his path. In fact, I'm confident in telling you, if Garry beats Jeff Neal, any hope that you have of Garry versus Strickland is gone in smoke. Regardless of the fact that Garry might call him out right there in that moment, I think it's gone. I think it's up in flames. So what do you want to see happen there, right? Is it worth risking that? Is it worth risking this beautiful run that Gary's on? His undefeated streak, potential number 1 contendership. We know he's close. This probably isn't the one, but he's close. Not to mention welterweight as a whole. Something is going on there. Something is going on that we haven't quite put enough sunlight on. Sunlight being the world's best disinfectant, right? Put a light. What is going on there? Belal Muhammad came in, who we all believed was already named the number 1 contender, but then he also came in as a backup fighter, which he didn't get that call for short notice. So imagine what he had to do. Imagine the professionalism that he had to show. And in many ways, when Belal got the call to be a backup fighter for Leon and Colby, that was also a way out. Well, hey, man, we offered it to you. You didn't want to be a backup fighter. Why would we think you want to be the fighter? But that's not the response they got. He said, yeah. And then he did it, and he got licensed. And he got on an airplane, and he got on that scale, and he beat the scale. I'm just sharing for you. And within no time, I mean, just as soon as that match was done, as the post-fight press conference. Talking about Leon and Colby, just as soon as that was done. And it was right there that rug was pulled out. So what is going on at 170 pounds? Is Belal next? Was Chimaev offered this fight for 300? Can Ian Garry's undefeated record, only to be surpassed currently by Rakhmonov, jump the field? I think these are all very meaningful questions. And I think when I look at Gary's call-outs of a world champion, Sean Strickland, of a top guy in Colby Covington, I think when I look at his call-outs, I get more surprised at who he's not calling out. Ian Garry, young, brash, handsome, crowd favorite, main card. All times he's a main card fighter. They were going to have this fight in Miami. He was main card. They pull it off there, put it over here in Anaheim. He's still main card. Not even a thought, not even a question. Beautiful record, top-ranked guy. Doesn't see himself as the right guy to fight for the championship. I think perhaps Garry is selling himself a little bit short.